Boom. Yo, what's going on? Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Core with Creators. It's 11 o'clock on Wednesdays. This is when we go live. This is episode 28. So if you're into this, don't forget to check out the rest of these interviews. And this is not a green screen. This is 42 West 18th Street, Adorama itself. You can always come through. Maury is always sad by himself over there. Say hello to Maury. He needs you, okay? But I got this guy with me today. This is a guy I think you should all know. This is Victor Ha, the Vice President of Imaging for FUJIFILM. I'm going to go into you hardcore, but first, let's talk about some sponsors. Sorry, guys. First, I want to say thanks to, FUJIFILM for sponsoring this. You guys know about FUJIFILM. They're a company that's been around forever and has absolutely evolved through the history of photography. And they honestly do things the way they want to do them. And people that are on the same wavelength are really tied into this brand. It's one of these brands that's absolutely a culture at this point. So first of all, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
No, of course, man. And one more, I want to say thanks to Gotham for hooking us up. Cheers, mate.
Hey, cheers. Great coffee.
Oh, thanks, man. Like I made it. What'd you get?
I got an iced red eye.
Red eye. That's a true boss right there. I always go for cold brew and everyone gets something with like milk in it. Something like, man, no one ever gets like, except for Joe McNally, got black coffee with 2 sugars in. I was like, all right, that's pretty tough, but that beats me.
It's not a competition, dude.
It's always a competition. It's always a competition. Listen, we see you in the chat. We're going to address those questions. Just let's get this off the ground first. I'm actually going to lower this really quick.
And while you're doing that, just a slight correction because there's other VPs in the company.
Okay.
I'm not the VP of imaging. I'm the VP of electronic imaging.
Okay.
And optical devices.
Okay. But what you should know is that this is one of these guys that's a fable in this industry. Like you say his name and people know who you're talking about on one side of the game, but then you try to explain him to people that don't know him and you're like, what? And then you try to explain things he's done and they're like, that's awesome. And it's like, yeah, he walks between worlds. He's a guy that comes shooting with us, goes on photo walks wearing a straight up brand t-shirt to help people out with their cameras like any other rep. And then he puts on a suit and tells the top of the top what's working, what they think they do, what the culture really wants, what the pulse is really beating like. You don't see this. And I've gone to Fujifilm events higher up and I've seen some very, very high people. They just grab a camera and they're just shooting while there's like a mixer or networking thing going on. And they're like not even clicking into this whole like political thing. They're just like, no, I saw a really good reflection on this window off of this balcony. I'm going to go grab like that's really a thing that happens in Fujifilm. And I really appreciate that. And I think that's why we get the designs we get, the philosophies we get, the line of cameras that we get. And I think everybody at some point ends up with a Fujifilm in their hands, no matter what they shoot. I'm talking a lot now, but there's just a lot to this guy. And I appreciate him because I got to go street shooting with you for a full day. And I actually got to watch this guy's excitement about shooting. And then you see that, and that's who's speaking for us to make decisions at a brand that gives us these things, right? So I appreciate your time, by the way, you know.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And to be honest, it's you talk about me like I'm a larger than life kind of character. I'm just a cog in a wheel, honestly. I've got a great team here in the US. I'm a part of an incredible team globally. We've got so many people who are like-minded, and even when we disagree, we have the same vision and we have the same goals, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that I always take away from a conversation with my colleagues is at the person that I'm speaking to, they're also a photographer or they're making videos. You know, they've been in the industry just as long as I have.
Yeah.
They've got their own perspective. And so it's been really wonderful being in a company that's given me an opportunity to find like-minded peers. It's pretty great.
There's a typo in Victor's name. Did I mess it up? Sorry, guys. Is it your name or? Okay, I forgot the R in Victor, so you're Victo Ha.
You know what?
I apologize. I apologize. Listen, it's 1,000,000 degrees here, and I'm doing this by myself. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's either the AC is not working or I'm starting to get nervous and my body temperature is rising.
Oh, please. Yeah. But let's address what's going on in this chat right now, first of all, because I think one of the important things about stuff like going live is that you guys can actually talk to brands and pros and stuff like that. So there's been an issue with the XT5 autofocus. There's a lot of people in chat asking if there's going to be a fix for it. What do we got going on with the XT5 autofocus?
Yeah, so first off, thank you to our community and thank you for everyone who's been so patient with us. We know there's an issue, and what we did is we have a fix plan for the end of June, and that update's going to come out with also some updates to XT5, XH2, XH2S, and XS20. We're going to add the Reala Ace film simulation mode.
which is honestly, I'm going to say is a really great simulation if you're someone that's about accurate color instead of like vibrant or pleasing or whatever. Like I put it, as soon as I got the GFX 102, I put a chipboard up and I tried the Reality Ace, and it was the most accurate color setting I felt. And I was like, this is awesome. And now I leave it in Reality Ace.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fuji X Weekly. Richie Roche has made some really cool recipes out of the various film simulations, and I think he was playing with one when he was in New York a few weeks ago. That one's really fun.
Yeah.
It's a really great film simulation to mess around with the white balance and kind of where you're shifting your white point. And I think as I've learned that from our users and our audience, I've started to do it more, so it's fun.
Oh yeah, when we were shooting, he just goes like this while he's looking at me and shoves his joystick to the top left. He's like, I'm just gonna make this white balance super green and blue. And I'm like, okay. You know, it's just, there's something about shooting with a Fuji that makes you want to play in the mud a little bit more and do things like that. But to address the firmware thing, there you go is your answer. By the end of the month, which is like 10 days, there's going to be a fix and added things to the firmware for Fujifilm users out there. So I hope that helps you guys out. And if someone new comes in this room and starts asking that late, you guys can tell them in the chat that there's already been an answer to that.
Thanks for being so patient. We understand that, you know, sometimes these things happen, and we did our best to address it. And thank you for raising it and making it aware for us.
And I also think it's amazing we live in this era of firmware. Okay, like we're looking at an era where what you already bought can actually excel even further. You can even look at a brand's philosophy of how they support users by how they do firmware updates. If they're constantly fixing bugs from things that were years ago that they're finding all of a sudden, or they're letting it go under the radar, or if they're adding things, if they can add things, which you guys have been doing quite a bit. Fujifilm was one of the first brands to go, oh, you have that camera? Cool. Here's a firmware update. You have 4K video now. Like that was a major move.
Yeah, I think the philosophy behind firmware updates is that if the camera can handle the update, meaning if the firmware update and the features inside of the firmware update can be handled by the sensor and the processor, then we want to consider putting it in.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes time and resources do impact the ability to do that, but the philosophy is there, the desire is there.
Yeah.
You know, I just think sometimes it's we hear our audience always ask for a bunch of stuff, and we do our best to address those needs, and we do our best to make sure that there's at least some sort of a regular update to the firmware. But that can get, you know, challenging because as the cameras, you know, increase in number, and as resources always, you know, become scarce, it can impact our ability to release them all the time, but we do our best.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much goes. People think firmware is just like this nether that exists and it's not, doesn't cost anything. It's like, you know how many lines of code have to get written, tested, and then the server space to hold it, the actual process of it. Like some firmware out there, based on what brands are saying to me, costs as much, sometimes more than a physical product sometimes, which is kind of wild, right? But I think it's amazing we live in this era. In fact, Damian Robertson is saying the XT1 firmware update that added electronic shutter still blows his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. Like it just like even saying, you know what, I think we can do this. Well, why don't we go do this? And then you go do this. It's kind of cool.
It's, you know, I think like estimates and ideas in terms of firmware costs, it can be upwards of like 7 figures at some point. You know?
Jeez.
Yeah. So it's a huge endeavor, and it's something that allows, but it's cool because it allows us to update cameras. It's cool because it allows us to update cameras, but then, it's also something that we have to kind of plan and scale for too.
Yeah. But it also, it has to be an ROI, right? Like that means less customer service calls. That means that things are getting updated to the next platform that you're in. Like the line starts to move forward instead of being left behind, and it becomes more valuable in a used market, gets more users. Cause I think that's one of the things that happened to GFX is right now there's a pretty robust GFX line going on, which is the medium format Fujifilm. And if you look at like what the pricing is for a used like 100S, it's making medium format very, very accessible pretty quickly. And that's getting a new user into something. Cause I think people don't need like 3 versions of the same format, but they'll go, you know what, a medium format, I could build one with a couple lenses. Let me go see what that's about. And when it comes at a price that's that accessible, when I was coming up in this industry, medium format was a $30,000, $40,000 pipe dream for you. And I had to rent Hasselblads all the time.
Sure.
And I was like, Man, this is crazy. And then when the GFX started pumping, the 100S really changed things, I think, as far as accessibility.
Yeah, I think 100S kind of gave us an opportunity to look at photography as a I guess when I first started photography and I started doing digital stuff, it was always, what are you switching to? What are you getting rid of? Right? It was always cool. I'm switching to X and X because it does this, and I'm getting rid of all this stuff. And you people like switch left and right, and just had people just jumping ship left and right. And I think as I've been a part of the Fujifilm team, I think there's a deep desire for us to look at them as tools that get added to a kit.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you look at GFX and you look at X100 and you see kind of how our cameras just fall into the space. There's a lot of folks that own different systems that use our cameras.
Yes.
Right? And it's because our cameras act as complements to things they have. And I think GFX is a really great complement to any kind of system. You know, I grew up watching photographers and even like my uncles and stuff photographing on a 35 millimeter film system and then like 120.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were always like rolling with like, you know, their Canon A1s and their Hasselblads, you know, or their Mamiyas.
Yeah. Mamiya. Yep. RSVs, all that. Yep.
And so what it allowed them to do was, you know, sell themselves as professionals because they had like the 120 for family portraits and they had their 35 for like the more photojournalistic stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that we're kind of having an opportunity to really go back into the professional space as photographers.
Yes.
Offering solutions for our clients and our customers that address some of the deep needs that they might have.
Oh no, the GFX is a serious commercial tool for me. It's my special projects camera. If you guys watch my own channel, you know what I'm talking about. But I picked up the X100. Let's see, I had the T, then I had the F, the V, and now the 6. I picked it up because I needed a palette cleanser from day job. I was getting bogged down and I was like, I need a camera that just makes me want like shooting again rather than looking at a camera going, all right, I'm going to work. Let me put on the hard hat and go out. Like, no. And when I picked up someone gave me a T to mess with and I was like, oh, cool. Then the F came. I was like, oh, I'm just going to go get the F. Yeah. And that camera was so much fun. I'm like, what could they do to this thing? And then the V came out. I was like, I kind of want that screen that flips out a little bit. And then the 6 came out and I was like, oh, man. I was like, you threw in everything I could have wanted in a camera. But can you explain in on your side of the fence, what do you think the popularity of this camera? Because it's been around for generations, but it's only been since the V that it got this like monumental, you can't get it. It's always out of stock. Everyone's trying to flip them for a crazy cash or scalp them at this point. Yeah. What do you think happened with the X100?
Luck, timing.
Luck,
timing. And then also we are fortunate to be a brand that took a risk, right? When we made that camera, the first version, I wasn't with the company at the time, but the way that the story is told me is that there was a massive debate about making a camera, a compact point and shoot, as a premium compact point and shoot at that price level. And that everyone had doubts whether or not we were going to be successful as a company launching a camera at that price point. And we're on our 6th version of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the moment that X100V caught fire was a moment where everyone was looking for things to spend time on, to focus on, and to give themselves an opportunity to really dive into creativity as an outlet, creativity to as a distraction, you know. And social media had a huge impact on it. I think the individuals who grabbed that camera and found the film simulations, which is kind of like our bread and butter. Yeah. You know, it's so fun for us because I think our story as a brand is we're a brand that exists in our interpretation and reproduction of color. And every one of our cameras has this like unique ability to reproduce colors that aren't just accurate, but they're nostalgic. And I think that's kind of, it just all came together at the right time.
Yeah, I think Fujifilm has always done a good job of speaking photographer. right? They're not an electronics company that happens to make cameras. Or something like that. Like when you look at the design of a camera, it's referencing something that existed, something that might have been familiar to you because your dad gave you a camera or something like that. Like, you know, some flea market camera that you learned on. There's something about this that feels familiar to that. Then the color and the way the image comes through with kind of a film grain, a little bit of a vignette here, like something like there's always, it speaks photographer. And I think what happened, in my opinion, with the V was, yes, social media and popular people going like this. But I think we got to a point in our community as photographers that more people were actually shooting and understanding the tools and what they want out of tools because they've been actually using cameras for a while. They got into digital. They weren't, maybe not film people, but hey, what was film about? Now they're trying film cameras. And then there's just so many things that hit. Leaf shutter, internal ND. You know, like leaf shutter was a big thing for me with the Axe when I first picked up this camera because of the flash sync. I was like, this is sick. I got 2,000th of a second flash sync. And when I don't know if I told you or somebody, they're like, that's what you care. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to use it in a studio. And like, no one thought of it like that. Then you talk to someone else and they're like, well, I want a rangefinder camera. There's not that many options out there. And like, this feels like a rangefinder to you, you know? So like, there's just so many notes that speak to the nerds that you can't help but get like romantic about it to some level, you know?
Well, I think that it's a combination of folks who wanted to use film and were experimenting with film. And then, you know, rising costs of film and rising costs of developing and finding a tool that spoke to the practicality and the tactileness of using a film camera. You know, I have in the past, I've been with the company 5 years now. Just started my 6th year. And in the 6 years that I've been with the company, I've gotten a chance to really spend time with the designers, spend time with the product planners, and every single conversation that I've had with someone in Japan has always started from this place of, well, when we watch other people use cameras, or here's what we see in our research of, you know, this type of style, you know, what do you think? And it's really fun from a design standpoint, in this company to walk into a conversation where there are so many observations before they actually go to make a product. And it's so much discussion. And you know, it's a shout out to Justin, who's on the US team. He's in the product planning team, and he gets to contribute.
And he's brilliant, by the way, that
awesome.
guy. Brilliant.
And so he's got, you know, decades of know-how and decades of knowledge that he brings to a conversation. And so what it does is it gives us an opportunity to listen to our community, find out like what really matters to them, and then try to tie it into a way of making a product that we could all be really happy with. And so I think we're hitting a good stride right now. And I think some of the things that we've released recently, and some of the things that we've made some risky decisions on are really paying off. And I think that the reception of the film simulation dial, for example, I mean, that's a controversial decision, right? To get rid of the mode dial and then replace it with a film simulation dial.
That is the nerdiest thing you're ever going to hear. How controversial was swapping a dial out?
Yo, it was so controversial. It was like, wait, we're going to do what? But I think what we saw was, at least in the US, we saw users map their film simulations to various different custom setting points on their camera, okay, on that dial. And then instead of changing and interrupting their flow in photography, they just flipped to a different custom setting.
Yeah.
And it'd be the same camera settings, but just a different film simulation.
Right.
And so I think that made the film simulation dial, at least for me, make so much sense.
It makes sense, but I'll tell you why it makes sense for a guy like me is Fujifilm is rare. You're seeing a little more common now, but for a long time, they were the only brand that whatever you did as a color profile in the camera went to the raw file. Forever, if you shot monochrome, it was a JPEG image and your raw file was color. Hey, what's up, Teresa? And I was like, so I always ignored that in every camera. And then once I started realizing that you guys did that, I'm going to Capture One and my Acros is sitting there for me. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to just start shooting like that. And remember, I'm an in-camera kind of guy, right? Like I light the way I want to light. I don't want to retouch anything really. So that made me pick up the camera more and more and more because I was getting to an end result. I was going on to the next shot.
Yep.
You know
what's crazy is I'm still teaching people that they can photograph in JPEG and RAW and then go to Lightroom or Capture One and use the film simulation,
Yeah.
you know, on the raw file. I'm still teaching people that, right? And the light bulbs and the mine explosions that go off. They wait, what? I get this color. No, wait, that's not real. That's not real. Yeah, no. Lightroom and Capture One, they actually work with us to be able to deploy accurate representations of those film simulations inside their softwares, you know? So it helps out with workflows. It helps out with, like, you know, if you really do love that film simulation, you want to be able to make some finer tune adjustments in post. Yeah, you can do that.
So here's a controversial question. If Fujifilm makes film and you guys keep on emulating film, why not put out a film camera?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it's a way above my pay grade. To answer that question.
He's kicking me under here right now.
I think I think that I will say that we do make film cameras. We make Instax.
Yeah, I know. You guys always say that.
Right? And I think that the takeaway here is we have a wonderful kind of like rich history in design. The film, the engineers that made the film stocks, you know, for Velvia and Provia and Acros, you know, some of them were the ones that were involved in making films, the same film simulations, right? And so there's a lot of carryover. But then also, you know, the designer for Instax Mini Evo, he's the same designer on, I believe, X Pro 3. Right. So there's a lot of carryover, and you can start to see how a lot of the cameras in the entire brand are starting to kind of look and feel and occupy a lot of the same personalities.
Yeah, you know, and that's something I notice in the brand as an outsider of the brand itself. When I ever interact with you guys, it's always longstanding people with the brand. They don't jump out, right? They're never people that got hired because they know sales or something. They literally shoot or understand what came before, whatever. Like, they're actually part of this. And I think that's why people respect Fujifilm so much, or want to be part of it in some regard, because it does feel like a community camera. Like, it does feel like you're part of it. The film recipes. So on forums, you see people like complain about specs, whatever, on whatever brand, but you go look for Fujifilm, people are like, hey, what was your film recipe for this shot? Yeah. Or like, and it's like a little more positive, and you're like, I'm a little like, are you guys going to pick my pocket? Like, I feel like something's up here, you know, but it's really interesting. Someone was asking about, I'm sorry guys, for ignoring this. Hey, what's going on, Sharky? How are you, buddy? Ask Victor if they recently created new shop website, as it looks and works amazing, unless I'm wrong about it.
We did make a web update, kind of behind the scene, but you know, it's something that we use as a supplement to our dealers. You know, we have a wonderful dealer business. Support that dealer business before we look at our web shop, but we did improve the web shop in the US.
Do you have anything out of the lineup or the history of the lineup that's been like your personal favorite, like that you think is like a subculture camera that doesn't get pushed up to the front lines?
If you can find an old version of an X70.
An X70.
Yeah, grab it. It is probably
eBay just doubled that price. Great.
Yo, dude, it is probably one of my favorite cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a compact camera. It's like a baby version of X100. It's got a really compact, really small profile. It can fit in my pocket. I'm like 5'7" and like 140 pounds.
This is getting personal.
You know, so like, you know, I'm like a small dude, right? So like, you stick a camera in my pocket, if it doesn't fit, it kind of just like is awkward. So this camera it sits on my desk, and I only ever use it in JPEG.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I only ever use it in JPEG. It's got really great kind of just like 1990s vibes.
I knew you were gonna say that, because that's so hot right now. It's like we're watching kids go to the used department, and they want either film cameras that are beat up for 40 years, or they want some beat up late 90s, early 2000s, 3 megapixel or less camera.
Yep.
And I get it. It gets a nostalgia look to it, and they definitely didn't live through the era of like waiting for it to load when you're like turning it on.
Well, it's so funny because like the technology shifted so much, right? Where you open up, you turn on X70 and the menus are all different. I updated the firmware on that thing, and I thought it was gonna be like faster. I was like, oh no, this is like legitimately just a point and shoot. So yeah, it's been fun. You can, it's got a hot shoe, so you can put a manual flash on it, and it does really kind of behave like an X100, except it's just smaller.
An X70.
X70, it's a great camera.
Yeah. I remember when Fujifilms had Nikon mounts. I remember when they were taking XD memory, little X that you can't find anymore.
S1, S2, S3.
S2, yeah, so yeah. And it was, you tried to explain to someone that this was a film company that's making this camera, and they just didn't. It was a weird time. the early 2000s of digital photography, when 3 megapixels was mind blowing, and trying to explain to someone what a megapixel was and all this stuff. And then when you're showing them this FUJIFILM camera and they couldn't wrap their head around this film brand making a digital camera, like it was a really weird. Now you fast forward 20 years and we're doing things in a palm of our hand that would have taken like 4 Pelican cases, man. What you can film on a GFX 100 now is cinema ready.
Yeah.
And where is that coming from? You guys are getting aggressive. I mean, listen, Fujinon lenses have always been around, and the cinema line of the Fujinon lenses is well known. But why the GFX as the cinema push? What is the ethos of like, yeah, it's medium format for stills and it's amazing resolution, but look at the video. Like no one's ever really. There's plenty of medium format cameras that have no video functionality. Period. So why GFX? Where's that philosophy?
I think that if you look at our X series line, it started off as being very photo heavy, but then we started pushing into making those cameras become tools for all creatives, right?
XT3 and XT4, I think, pushed it.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you look at GFX, it's kind of the same thing, right? We broke a lot of barriers by making large medium format accessible for anyone who didn't want to spend $60,000 in a phase or Hasselblad system, right? We were able to bring medium format into a space where someone could try it and learn about it. And then we saw that there was an opportunity for us to add in the same way additional features that would allow our users to continue to push creativity. And I think it's just kind of been our philosophy, is to give people products that allow them to reach into a creative space, because we do believe in storytelling, we do believe in image making, we do believe in people having accessible tools to be able to make images, right? And so it kind of is just natural that we would want to do that.
Yeah, and one thing I always notice with you guys is that you really do listen, instead of putting something out and telling people why they should like the reasoning and decisions that were made of what hit the table. I mean, so when we were at the X Summit in Tokyo, most of that was you guys doing a poll. Forget about like showing the new camera and trying to like, put out all this stuff. They were like, hey, what would you guys want more? A wide angle this or this or this? And me and Fernando were sitting there going like, this is going on forever. They're really trying to get us to tell them what we want next. I mean, that's not, you don't see that a lot.
Again, it's like we do love listening to our audience. If we're going to try to create products and make sure that those products at least resonate in a certain way, it's really good to get feedback, right? Feedback is really important. And I think sometimes feedback can be hard. Like getting feedback that you don't want to hear sometimes can be really difficult, especially if you've invested a lot of time and even a lot of your own self into a project. But at some point, when you get that feedback, it's what people are telling us what they want, right? So yeah, and sometimes that feedback process works, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes we, hit the mark, and sometimes we're just off center. It's a continual evolution of the process. I think
you can't be afraid to put something out though.
Yeah, and I think like what it is I get an opportunity to see products get released, and sometimes I get an opportunity to be involved in the conversation of products as they're released or before they're released. And every single time there's a process of feedback and a process of evaluation and a gate check, and all these steps being a part of a Japanese company has been so fun for me to see, right? Because we're Americans. We play it fast and loose, really. We're like cowboys, we kind of just oftentimes.
We're entitled. What are you kidding me? Like, why doesn't this read my thoughts?
Right, but then you get plugged into a system on the inside, and you see what the amount of effort and process that goes into it, and thought.
And the people make the decision.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's human.
We have almost every single person involved on the U.S. team and involved on the Japan team, and even globally. I would say 95% of us are photographers or filmmakers. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. It is crazy. And Ed, is that the Ed Mulholland in our chat? What's up, man? I hope you're doing well. I got to tell you, like, I know I keep bringing this up, but it was just crazy. We're in Tokyo for the X100 release, and you're just like, text me like, hey, I'm going out. You guys want to go shoot? And it's like 3 of us. And there's like a whole mass of people here for this release. And you're just like, nah, let's just wherever this train takes us. And it wasn't just walking around or like spitting propaganda in your head trying to get you to talk better. Like a brand could do that when they got you alone. He was just shooting, and I had to respect it. And then it hits you like these are the people that are going into those rooms to make those decisions to give us the thing. So when someone is that high up or that connected to a brand that's on the pulse of all of us, we get so much out of it. So I got a lot of respect for Victor. He's also super fun to hang out with, but the amount of life that gets you feel coming out of like your enthusiasm is the entire thing for Fujifilm. Like I know it sounds like I'm going like rah rah like fanboy, but I can't tell you, as a guy that's been 25 years in an industry where I'm exhausted and I don't want to pick up that camera bag some days because I'm shooting for somebody else. There's something about this brand's philosophy and their design and the interaction you have with the cameras that makes you go, I'm so glad I'm shooting right now. I'm so glad I brought this with me right now.
I mean, what is it? I was at a friend's birthday a couple weeks ago, and I brought an X100, and I brought Profoto A2, and it's a trigger, right? And we're in the middle of like a bar, dance, nightclub kind of somewhere in like the West Village or whatever it is. And all I did was just paparazzi all night. Think.
Like next to lens strobe?
Yeah. Think like paparazzi, like a nightclub photo style, right? And I'm just popping up, pop,
trendy
pop. And afterwards, I sent the photos to everybody. And it's funny for me. It's like I share photos when I can, and I share photos with my friends, and I just do it. It's just a part of what I do. But people who don't get photos, made of them, or get photos shared to them,
right.
when they're made from a camera, the response is like, oh, that's cool, because like they that's probably the first time they've ever had photos made of them in the last 3 to 5 years, right? Because every time they're out, it's a memory on a cell phone, and that serves a purpose. But so when someone goes to the effort of bringing a camera, making a photograph, framing it properly, because how many times have you given your camera to some yokel on the street, and all of a sudden you get it back and like half your head's cut off, and like you're not like exactly framed the way you want. That's just like we take it so for granted, right?
Yeah.
And we have this perspective of, okay, cool, I can do this for my friends. But then when your friends get those images and they have like photos of themselves for like 10, 15, 20 years, they're like, oh, wow, I actually have photos of myself. Like there's a period of my life when I was a photographer professionally, I had no photos of myself, right? So it's like I didn't even exist.
Yep.
Right. And so now it's like, okay, cool. I have a completely different perspective when I bring these cameras out, because I'm not just documenting my life, I'm documenting my friends' lives, I'm documenting me with my friends, and it's an entirely different experience.
Yeah, and that's the engaging part of it. And I think part of the thing about being a photographer is that we get to we have this like passport to infiltrate people's lives for a second, and then we connect with them. Like I took this to something that was going on in Manhattan. I shot something for someone on the street. If you follow my Instagram, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk about it here. But then I gave her the photos like right away, and she's been sharing them daily. She's so psyched on it. And there is something to that. In fact, when Camera to Cloud came out, you went into an overdrive. I'm not kidding you, to a point where he was obnoxious, okay? I'm just going to say this, all right? He's like, scan the QR code on my shirt. He's taking your phone, doing this. All of a sudden, you have all these photos you shot. But while we were hanging out, I was getting photos of our trip daily, hourly. And it was just kind of like, well, now it makes it, you're more connected to it. Like you're part of it. I don't think you guys realize what it's like to go around and shoot, especially if you're a street photographer and no one even knows that those images are out there, and they might find it on Instagram by chance or whatever. But when you go to something like, I don't know, like a Comic-Con, and you shot and they get that image, there's something about it. There's a connection point. I think that's what we take. You're right. We do take it for granted, but I think there is this weird, I don't know, ambition level, or like this hump to get over of actually taking the camera with you. A lot of people just have the phone. They go, nah. And a lot of people will tell you, a lot of executives in this world will tell you that phones are killing this industry, or that the X100 is like a fluke of a response. It's like, no, this is what people want.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that phones are killing our industry. I think that's a fatalist approach.
Yes.
It's a fatalist perspective, especially. This is the only industry that I've ever had a professional career in, So to think that like my investment of the last 20 some odd years of my life is going to die because of a cell phone.
Why am I laughing? I'm the same. I was exactly.
Yeah. So I kind of want to believe that I didn't invest my life into something that is going to go away because of a phone. I do think we have the largest install base in the world, though. And I do think we have the most photo literate and story driven people in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And I do think that the phone has really given people who would have never thought to be visual storytellers an opportunity to see what that looks like to them. And those are all really great things, right? Because when they finally pick up a camera or a dedicated device and, want to stop having the distractions, notifications, and all these things that pop up and, maybe actually use their phone for something other than, a multimedia device, then that's where the dedicated camera comes in. Well, dedicated device, you stay focused, and yeah, it is hard to bring in the camera, but when you do, you never regret it.
Yeah, it's that initial hump that and then you get sucked into it. But two things. One, I was one of these guys that like hated TikTok forever, and I still am not a fan. But when I walk around the city, as much as I want to cringe sometimes, I realize these kids are taking clips to then edit together to make something. Like, when did you have kids growing up learning to edit or tell a story in 60 seconds before? But you said something to me once that really I never forget now. We had a lot of younger kids around us that were shooting. And you're like, the reason they like film or the reason they want something like this is that it takes away all the options and it hones them down to focus in on these are your 5 tools instead of a billion. Now, what are you going to give me? And can we talk a little about where you think that is as far as like a younger generation not wanting all the options opposed to like our generation was like, give me everything you can give me.
I mean, we can get into like higher level thought about like generations, like millennials and Gen Z and all that kind of stuff. But I think in its simplest sense, creativity occurs with constraints. You become most creative when you have your choices eliminated from you, or when you have boundaries, or when you have this framework to work within, right? If I hope there's people out there that relate to me, but like I've got the weirdest brain, right? And if I stand in front of a blank canvas, I can stand in front of that blank canvas for days and not know what to do. But the minute someone says, hey, do X, Y, or Z, and you got to do it in this amount of time with this amount of focus, then all of a sudden I've got ideas for days, right? Or I hear someone else talk and I can just tag on to their ideas, right? And it's like where I think people are getting to the point of wanting to pick up cameras again, it's because of constraints. We want to be able to put everything at the door and take a photo walk. The amount of times I've been loaning out my X100 to people, and someone came back and said, I was so excited to get this in the mail that I canceled the rest of my meetings for the day. It's like an executive level person, canceled the rest of the meetings for the day and walked around and just made photos, and I haven't done that in years.
No, I get it. And I always say this is a language, right? Yeah. All of our choices when we make that image is like words in a sentence. But I think a lot of times we forget the fact that the tools having infinite possibilities is just like a lot of gibberish at you. And you can't get to an end what you're trying to say. And I think when you do go, I'm only using a 50 millimeter and I'm only shooting in black and white. And that goal of what you're trying to say or deliver with this context gets so much clearer. And maybe, no, you didn't get that shot across the street because you're not shooting with a telephoto or whatever, but you got the shot you're supposed to get with the tools you got because you made a decision. And I think that's the real problem, is that we can't make a decision before the creation. We end up wanting to figure it out after the fact that these days.
Yeah, I think what it really boils down to is that choices have consequences.
Yes.
Right? Choices must have consequences. You can't, if you don't make a choice, you don't make a decision, then you don't know where you're going to end up, right? So that's like a philosophy I have in life. It's a philosophy I have in creativity. It's a philosophy I have in work. If all else fails, when in doubt, make a decision, because at that point you can evaluate the decision and then move forward.
Exactly. Moving forward is the biggest thing. And sometimes moving forward is just bringing the camera.
Yeah.
I'm surprised my GFX isn't on the table. It's at home and it's in the middle of a project. I'll just say that. And also someone had a question about a 400 millimeter. You guys want that much telephoto out there, huh? Is any plans for Fujifilm to jump into long glass, like a 400 millimeter 2.8?
I can't talk about like the existence of product that don't exist.
We got a 500 for GFX now.
Yeah, there's a GF 500, and what I will do is take that as a recommendation back to Justin, because Justin's he's in product planning. So
you have a pretty robust X mount lineup, and the GFX is constantly growing. And I think a lot of people are kind of like wondering where GFX is going from here. We now have the second evolution, though, the GFX 100, GFX 100 and the GFX 100 S2. Do you think that there is, and there's a lot of, I know you probably read all the rumors. Do you think that there's some kind of design in this world that's going to collide with the GFX? Like, are you guys going to go, this is so successful, what can we glue to this thing and make it keep on selling? Like, is that kind of a philosophy for you guys? You're just like, no, this is its own special thing.
You know, we just love the excitement around a brand.
Yeah.
We love the excitement around the cameras we make. And I think every time we have a success, we evaluate the success, right?
Yeah.
And I can't say that this success with X106 is going to play itself into other cameras or, you know, other features for other cameras. But I can say that it's a really exciting time for us to be a part of Fujifilm. It's an exciting time for us to kind of see where some of the choices that we made, because this camera, the design process on a camera can start years in advance, right?
Yeah, I keep telling you guys this. R&D is like 3 years.
It starts years in advance. And so some of the decisions that the team made years ago are showing up in cameras now.
Yeah.
And it's really fun, right? It's like the longest time capsule reward ever when it comes to like making products, right? Because I used to be in software, and software you can just get it done, right? And now it's kind of like you just, that's why there's so much feedback and review, right? You make a decision and then you just wait. And you wait and you hope people like it. And it's an exciting time for us right now.
I mean, everything's really exciting. The whole lineup is so evolved at this point, and so lived in and so accessible. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about camera to cloud, because you guys were massively pushing that. Since it's been implemented, which has been a little bit now, not a lot, but it's been not a long time, but a good enough time for people to try it. What do you feel have been like the major changes in the market or the craft itself since the implementation of Frame IO inside your cameras?
So I think that as we release that feature in new cameras and then eventually in all of our 5th generation cameras, what we saw was a massive opportunity for photography. And the photographic story that can exist for professionals, especially with live event, or even like if you're thinking about a wedding photographer at a reception. I grew up in a world where the photographer would develop rolls of film during the reception and lay the 4x6s down and charge like, $5-10 a 4x6, right? Because Uncle Tom, would see it and he'd be like, four deep and go, yeah, you know what? I want that. And so he'd grab it and he'd pay $10 for it, and it'd be a picture of him, his family with the bride and groom. And by the end of the night, the photographer would just clear, a few extra grand or a few extra $100 at least, just by selling those prints. And so I think if you've been paying attention to some of the integrations that have happened for Frame IO from other brands like SmugMug, the ability of going end to end allows photographers right now, if they have a Frame IO account, if they have SmugMug, to go into an event, photograph, have it go straight to the cloud, and then through a SmugMug gallery, sell the print. And the print gets delivered. They can pay for the download if they want it. There's options now, right? So I think the future of camera to cloud is in this idea of like workflows of the future.
Yeah, well, that's what
end type stuff.
That's where we're seeing a lot of the AI get implemented. Like now, trade shows, like half the booths are AI software, and they're trying to be in the middle of that, right? So they're trying to get to a point where you get it up to cloud, then AI takes over to do your preset retouchy whatever style, and then that goes to another thing. So like there's a chain of events happening now, and it's in this world of immediacy where a bride probably wants to share this stuff as soon as they're being married. Yeah, I could see that as being like adopted pretty well. I remember when Frame IO first got integrated, every wedding photographer I knew was asking me about it, and I was like, it's a Fujifilm thing. Do you shoot Fujifilm? And they're actually going, no, but
let me
check it out.
I think that the technology is, if you read any kind of books on like adoption and technology, there's a point, right, where it's called the tipping point. Okay. It's where enough users find enough of an outlet for a need or a solve for the needs that they have, that it hits this tipping point, and then the floodgates open, right? Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the community and the industry follow through. And I think what we're seeing is we're seeing early adoption, and we're seeing our cameras become compatible with this thing. And as the industry looks at it and starts to find uses and applications for it, we're going to continue to build up to that tipping point. And, I don't think we're at the tipping point yet. Okay, I think that we're building up to it, and I think that we have great partners in Adobe. We have great partners in companies like SmugMug, and great other partners like Radiant, AI, who are looking at this idea of cloud compute as something that can solve massive problems for photographers around the world, right? And so I think once we get those workflows communicated and really have examples and honestly have connections into our post-production softwares like Premiere or Adobe or, and allow us to be able to really leverage the convenience of cloud workflows, then we're going to see that tipping point.
Yeah, I was when you guys added video proxy, I thought that was going to crack it wide open, right? Like someone's already working on the video, which is exponentially more time than stills, right? I thought that was going to crack wide open, but I actually haven't seen anyone outside of small filmmakers who take their time to whatever they're going to do use the cloud itself. When I thought it was going to be like, I just filmed a football game while it's happening, get it up. I haven't seen that. Do you think that's
connectivity, right? So there's always like this issue of connectivity, because we live in a world right now where the cameras don't have SIM cards inside of them. They're not always connected. So we're reliant upon connectivity. And, networking, on-set networking, for example, is something that we've been working really closely with production companies and folks in the field on. And just to understand it, because I'm not a network expert, I don't, roll deep with like 5G routers in my pocket.
Yes, you do. I've seen you with routers. I've seen you with routers, literally.
Only
in your backpack.
only because I have to seriously try to figure this stuff out for people, right? But like
that is true, actually. I mean, I've seen him on trains, like going through like protocols, and I'm like, what is he doing? This is a VP. Like, this is an IT guy. I can't express how crazy it is to see a guy where he is in a position doing like all these other things. I know I sound crazy or like I'm like crazy fanboy or whatever, but you don't get this. You don't get this on brands. You don't get this. It's really a culture. They're really part of it.
I don't know. Okay. I'm going to say that's, thank you. But I do believe that there are people across the industry, either in my same level or even above, who have a deep passion to get it right. Right. And they spend the time learning things outside of their normal day-to-day because they care about getting it right. And they care about making sure that when they talk to a creative who's making a living doing this, right, that they're sensitive to the needs and wants, that they understand the language, they can speak to the pain points and speak to the needs and not feel like they're BSing somebody, right? So there are plenty of executives like me across the industry. And I think that I'm a product of the industry, right? So I wouldn't be this way if I didn't have great mentors and great people in the industry show me that, you know what, like if you're going to get out there and you're going to talk to people about this, you should probably know what you're talking about.
Right.
You know? So yeah, I mean, I'm a product of the industry and I've had a great sea of people that have supported me for the past 20 some odd years. You know, and I'm lucky. I'm really lucky. And so I try to do it with others and I try to do the same thing. And we do have a lot of things that we do internally to try to mentor photographers, mentor emerging photographers, mentor each other, you know, and it's something that we do care about.
Yeah, well, when we say this is all built on relationships, we're not just meaning clients and getting jobs because you got nepotism. We're like, no, there's that side of it too, right? You do right by people who taught you things. You carry it down the line, and that's kind of why I appreciate a lot of it, because I'm old school, man. I had to carry how many cases and bags up flights of stairs here in New York just to learn like one thing. And
I tell you what, like I can tell you 5 stories about someone, different people on my team who have had someone open the door for them. Okay, one of my closest friends on the team, he was carrying concrete before he became a designer, right, upstairs, and I was folding pants before I got a call to go work at Nick's Software. Right. And then that was my 20s, you know, early 20s. And there is always someone in this industry who's opened up a door, just not for me, but for other people. And I've seen it happen time and time and time again. And that's why I think this industry is really unique, because I don't see that happen in other industries. We do have a really unique kind of space to kind of see the intersection where people go from different companies to different companies, and it's always because someone's opened a door for them.
I think there's also this weird little back of our mind worry that we have to make sure there's still an industry years from now. And I always relate things to pro wrestling. I don't know why, but like, you know, you put over the young kid as a veteran to make sure that the audience wants to see that young kid for the next few years. I kind of feel that's like how it is here. I mean, listen, Joe McNally's put me over how many times? I don't know, but it's important to be that way though, because I look in my era when I was really young in this industry, there were guys that would shoot Polaroids and tear them up so I wouldn't see what they're working on while I'm assisting them.
Yeah.
Because they were holding it close to the chest because they were worried I was going to steal their job.
Yeah.
It wasn't until years later when you were sweating your brains out for these guys, they were like, all right, well, here's why I moved that and here's why I switched to this.
Yeah.
And, now we're seeing it kind of fast track because a lot of these kids that come to these classes here, man, they just go to YouTube. They're not assisting. They're not in the game. They're peripheral.
Well, I think that's so. I have a lot of opinions about this, right? Because I think that it's a fault that we have had as an industry, where we have not. Let me say it differently: is our fault as an industry is that we have prioritized gatekeeping over education, and because we've prioritized gatekeeping over education, what's the result of that is people now go to different sources of knowledge to learn, and they're going and the human nature is like curious, right? They're going to want to learn. They're going to learn how to do stuff. I remember when I was a kid, the amount of stuff that I taught myself to do because I was just curious, right? So photography is the same way. And so speaking as a brand, if we can't be the source of truth when it comes to making an image with our cameras, and if we don't want to occupy the space of being the knowledge center when it comes to using our cameras to make great images, then what ends up happening is we've released the right, and we've released our place as a brand to talk about it, right? And so I think that when you look at it that way, and then you look at from 2019 to 2022, the amount of people that got sequestered and had no ability to collaborate with each other. And I'm talking specifically about like even filmmaking, right? Where so many people before 2019 were always on set with their friends, making like their student films, and they were like calling in favors, and like you would always hear someone was on someone else's set because they were doing their student film, and that's how crews are made, right?
Yeah.
And so now take that, expand it across 3 years. Now no one's working for each other. No one's helping out. No one's pulling favors. You get out of COVID now and there's no community. There's nowhere to learn from. There's I can't call someone and say, hey, what was that thing you did? Because there was nothing, right? And now even like look strikes. They're still not working, right? And if you think about where we are today in the industry, I think that we have done a disservice to the industry in terms of communities. We need to build more community. We need to build more reasons for people to go out with a camera and meet other people with cameras and talk photography and like just geek out and nerd out, right?
You're literally in a space I built for such. I mean, I physically built this place for that because I believe in the same thing. And look, I didn't get there in the beginning. Dan Norton had to like smack me around and be like, yo, like you gotta realize you can't shoot everything in the world. Yeah. Someone else is going to have to shoot and they got to learn how to do it. And, sharing it is everything. And you guys in this chat, I know that because you're part of this channel as well. Brad, you've been in every live stream ever. Marcus actually just got a GFX 100S from Maury, I think, right? Sad Maury back there. But if you guys have any questions, we're hitting the time. So this is the time to throw those questions. This is why we're live. But as far as everything goes, there is firmware. Victor at the beginning of this said there is firmware coming for the XT5.
Yeah, so we know, and we have got an update coming by the end of June. And at the end of June, we're also coming with an update to provide Reala Ace film simulation mode inside of XT5, XH2, XH2S, and XS20.
So Alan's actually saying he just received an XS20 an hour ago. This will be his first time using a Fujifilm.
It's a fun camera. It's a fun camera. It's compact, and I do love it. It's a great hybrid photo and video camera. So you're gonna have fun. It's a great vacation camera.
Well, give him a film simulation to kick it off with.
Nostalgic
negative, or I go with classic chrome.
You know what? Like all you classic chrome. Seriously, you guys we should make a shirt for you guys that say I only use classic chrome.
No, actually, there's something about especially this camera. I always throw it in acros with a yellow filter, and then I take the tone curve and I go like this. But I got to tell you, what's driving me nuts? And I wish the tone curve applied to my raw, because it doesn't.
Yeah. That's a thing that you lose, because our JPEGs are special, man. Yeah, it's
That's a shirt. Our JPEGs are special,
yeah,
bro.
we're special. Yeah, you know,
Gets
we're
it.
like the yeah, we're the pretty little flowers, you know? Like it's I think that one of the things that I love the most is I will photograph in raw JPEG, but almost 9 times out of 10 I'm just delivering the JPEG.
That's what I know. With this camera, I have so many raw files, but I'm always like, that JPEG's pretty good enough. Here you go. And I just love how this connects so easy. You hold that Bluetooth
Yeah.
button and it's like, boom,
Yeah.
I'm into it.
So let's see, we got a question about advice for hungry videographers and photographers.
Oh, Eric Bird. This is a guy who comes to every event here.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Oh man, that's a tough one, right?
That's very open.
I think the if I were to frame it in kind of my understanding of where I was when I wanted to be a photographer is I found a photographer to assist. And I found other photographers to assist.
What have I been telling you? Same thing, Eric.
Spent a lot of time doing that. And one of the things that I learned was at the time we had packs, you know, pro photo packs.
Yeah.
So learning how to set up a softbox, learning how to set up pro photo packs, like doing the hard work, you know. I think one of the things that I didn't realize was so valuable was just learning how to put a C-stand up. You know, all these little weird things. Like, I did a workshop a few years ago, and we spent the first 2 hours of the workshop putting stuff together because when people came to the workshop, they're so used to like coming in and seeing it all set up.
We gloss over it.
That it didn't really resonate with them that, oh, I have to be able to set this up, right? And then I think fundamentals for me, if you know your fundamentals and you know your basics and you put effort into to hunting down other photographers, even if they're not your style. I swear to God, like there are so many people that say, oh, I don't shoot that or I don't make that.
It'll pertain to you some way.
And even if it doesn't, it's like trying different foods.
Yeah.
You won't know till you try. So I would say that if you have an opportunity to be on set, the goal is to get on set, whether it's being a PA, whether it's being, you know, an assistant or being, you know, a producer of some kind. Just get on set because you want to be able to see how other photographers work. I did it doing weddings, and I learned from other wedding photographers, and that fit my personality. Just to kind of go bounce from thing to thing to thing, you know. Yep. But yeah, and then asking questions, going and not being afraid to talk to.
When it's right to ask a question, though.
Yeah.
Learn when it's the time.
Well, I think also, I would say that our industry is very open and willing to provide guidance and counsel. And when we're at shows and whatever it is, that's the purpose is to meet people.
Yeah.
And so I think if you have an opportunity to meet industry or brand side people and build relationships, that's how you do it, right? I can tell you 10 times out of 10, I'll be in a meeting and someone will say, hey, we're looking for a photographer for X or a filmmaker for X. And then someone else will go, well, I just had a conversation with so-and-so the other day, or so-and-so just sent me this thing the other day, right? And I think there's truth in that, right? There's truth and there's like, so it's so relatable. I
call it staying in arm's length, like being in a peripheral, like inside the bubble a little bit, just so that they know that you're around. But I mean, look, I went from doing a music video, PA for a music video with like no budget, whatever. I was just around to that same guy throwing me a PA job, which ended up leading to me painting sets for Viacom, which ended up me shooting a commercial campaign for IKEA when they opened up here in Brooklyn, and then going from there. Like, don't say no. You are creating your own opportunities by saying yes and going out there and meeting people and providing value. I'll tell you right now, if you're a good PA, you are gold. Are you kidding me? You do the job. You're not late.
Well, no,
you do
the
it
joke,
fast.
No, the joke is to be the second best PA, because if you're the best PA, you're just going to be a PA.
You're going to PA forever. Yeah. So you just go, but you have to just get on those sets because you're willing to, you know, and curb the ego and just be ready and willing to listen and take everything. But as far as that C-stand thing goes, I was bored in the studio and I did a live stream where I set up a C-stand thinking nobody was going to watch this. And it turned out to be the biggest video I ever did because
Yo, dude, like someone told me the other day that they needed to learn how to put a J hook into a super clamp,
jeez.
and they watched your video.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
So like that's the
Oh, Carly, she wrote me. She's like, I found this video as my top search. And I was, I didn't know that's what she didn't want it for. What's up? If you're Carly, you're watching, what's up? I met her at the rooftop thing for the release.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so I would say this, right? You said we built the space here for photographers to come in. I think that it's the obligation of brands in this industry to go into spaces where our audience are. We need to go where they go, right? We need to be where they are. And so I think finding opportunities to connect with photographers and filmmakers and storytellers out in the world is where it's most important, because that's where you see the passion of what they want to make. You see the things what they want to do, and it becomes a reminder for me why I love this job. You know, I do love it. It's a great job. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky every day. I get to wake up, work for a great brand, do something I want to do every day, and stay in an industry that I actually wasn't very good at. I wasn't a great photographer, right? And I wanted to be, but I looked at everyone else's work and I was like, oh God, I could spend the rest of my life getting paid to do, in my opinion, marginal work, or find a way to do something in this industry that makes me really, really excited and passionate, and then allow and facilitate other people who are much better than me to do things that they're great at, right? And I'm lucky. I can admit that I'm coming at this right now, this conversation, from a very privileged place. But there was a part of it where I thought I was going to give it all up, you know? So yeah, it kind of.
We all,
Yeah.
I'm just done, man.
Yeah.
I always go, if I sell all my gear, how long can I live on that money for? Until I have to figure something else out.
Yeah.
Nah, but I got to give you credit, 'cause I think one of your strengths is you understand how to read a room. You understand where to put your finger on the pulse, not just get the pulse. I think you're really in it. And I think that's why we get so much innovation out of the way you strategize and the things you look for to optimize and the things you put in a spotlight. I remember when there was a camera he was putting out, and at the bottom of the spec, it said 4K 60 by USB-C. And I was like, are you kidding me? This does 4K through USB-C. And he's like, should we put that higher up? I'm like, yes. And he did. But at the time, no camera. You had to have HDMI only, all this stuff. It was like one cable power plus 4K 60. It was nuts. And I was like, Fernando, that's got to be a wrong spec. I think they got a typo. And he's like, nah, I told Japan about it. And it was higher up on the list. And I was like, that's crazy to see it in action. I felt like I saw a bill become a law. You know, like I felt like it was kind of, hey, Carly, how are you? I'm glad that video helped. Thanks for checking it out. I appreciate that. But yeah, man, listen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming through. I know you're a busy guy. I mean, you bought a shirt for this and everything. So.
I did. I bought 2 shirts. I just didn't know what to do. So I was like, oh gosh, you know what? Mom always told me when you're going to be on camera, go buy something new.
Oh, wow. Wow. What were you going on camera for the first time that she said that?
Dude, elementary school photos, man.
Oh, come on.
Every year growing up, you had to get in front of a camera. Then I went to military school, and that all.
Oh, man. Yeah. See, here in New York with the public schools, they have the same jacket they give everybody. And I was always lanky. So I'm like this in my like, you know, my hair's like blank.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Victor, I can't thank you enough, man. If you guys want to drop any comments for him, we can check him out if you're watching this on playback. But yes, I know I spelled his name wrong. I'm a schmuck. Victo, but... Go check out his Instagram. I really do appreciate his stories because he actually flips a lot of the work from creators they're working with through his own social. So check that out. Is there anything you want to leave him with?
I would say first, thank you very much for having me.
Course,
I was not sure how this would go because I don't normally I hate attention like this. It's not good.
Look at this shirt. He hates attention.
Yeah, you know. I can dress loud. I just don't want people like talking to me. This like focus. This like the most there's like a therapy session in public.
Nah, you're the most personable guy. When we were hanging out, some guy came up to you and asked you if he could ask you questions or whatever for his YouTube channel. Like, how about I buy you a drink and let's go hang out? And it was like, wait, what? Like, me being a New Yorker, I'd be like, if you're talking to me, you want something from me, get away, I gotta go. But you're like, no, let's go hang out. I'm like, what? And that's how you are, Yeah,
Well, thanks.
you don't be put into spotlights or whatever. But I think it's important for people to know the people behind the brand, especially a guy that executes the way you're executing. Sure. And I think what you just said, people who just hear the name Fujifilm now get an idea of what Fujifilm.
Well, thanks for calling that out, and thanks for seeing that. I think sometimes we have tunnel vision in our own lives.
Absolutely.
And we don't get an opportunity to step back enough to see what we contribute. So I think if I was going to leave like any kind of final statement, it'd be, it's, we try really hard to do the right thing, to do the good thing, to do the thing that is going to leave an impact with our audience. We're a brand that cares about storytelling because the people that lead the brand are image makers, right? And they've been with the brand for decades. And I think the thing that I see every day is that every single person on the team that I get to work with every day, and every single person that I work with across the world, they're just as passionate about what they do as much as I am. And it's motivating. It's challenging. I was in Japan, last story is I was in Japan last fall, and it was an executive meeting. So it was my counterparts from around the world, right? And we're in a room and they're all presenting their businesses, and each person just goes. So like the guy from the UK goes, the guy from Australia goes, the guys from, Asia go, and Vietnam go. And like everyone just goes, and talk about being like put up against the wall against it's like not even a competition, but you're seeing like the best of the best of the best. Yes, sir. Present their businesses from around the world. And I just felt like I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't.
Monster hits.
Yeah, dude. It happens all the time, no matter where you're at, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there in this executive meeting, and I'm just like, oh God, like I don't belong here, because I just watched everyone just crush it. Okay, and I get up and do my presentation, and it felt okay, but then the feedback comes, right? And like the takeaways come from my colleagues, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I do belong here. They did get something out of it, but that tunnel vision prevents me from recognizing it, So yeah, we all feel like we kind of don't belong sometimes, but then we realize that we just got to keep doing it. If we keep doing it, then who cares if we don't belong? We just keep doing it.
Yeah. Just keep skating along till they tell you something, right?
Yeah.
Nah, look, and this is why you can't help but respect Fujifilm as a brand when you hear this from everyone that's over there. It's really infectious, and you just want to go shoot. If you guys haven't checked out a Fujifilm, go make friends with someone, go borrow one, come here, go check one out. Check out the used department, the X70 I'm going to have to check out now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and if you haven't seen the image series from Brian Manier on GFX 100S 2, that's a special one for all of us, because that series started during COVID. And the little astronaut his name's Miles, and you should check it out. It's a killer series. We really love that one.
We'll try to put a comment of the link down below this video, right? Guys, I can't thank you enough. If you are into this, there's 27 more of these episodes of the people in this industry I think you guys should know. So check out Call for the Creators playlist. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and also add the Adorama Events YouTube channel. That's the other channel where we stream all the demos and stuff out of here. I'm hearing an echo because my headphones are right there. Thank you guys so much.
Guys.
We'll see you on the next one. I'm sorry I spelled your name wrong.
That's all right.
All right, later guys. Peace.
See ya.